My name is Spence C. I'm originally from the UK, now residing in Oslo, Norway. And my company's called the Promu, which is short for the Prosperous Musician.
Awesome. Go a bit into your background as an artist and how you got to where you're at now, creatively and professionally.
Yeah, so I've always been, from a very young age, very early memories of being really like fascinated, turned on by music. I think my first memory was watching. This is going to show my age now, Mark. My first memory was watching Watership Down. Do you know that film? Have you seen that film? Animated children's film. It's actually beautiful animation, absolutely amazing. Song and score and soundtrack written by Mike Batt. And there's a song on that called Bright Eyes, which is the theme tune. It's very emotional. It comes at a really emotional point in the film. And I remember being a kid watching that film. And when it finished, I remember having the melody in my head. And I was running around the garden singing it to myself and banging a drum at the same time. I was so turned on, and that's so vivid now. I can still catch my mind. I must have been about 4 or something like 5, 6.
So an animated film that the music just got stuck in your head, basically.
Yeah, you should watch it. I mean, do you have kids or anything? Or and you don't need kids to watch it, but it's a family
I can watch
thing.
it anyway.
Fun for all the family, but it's very emotional, and they don't do family children's films like that anymore because it's very. It's pretty dark in places, but it's the music is just so powerful, and the story's really powerful. It's about rabbits, but
anyway, so from there, how did that progress into your further on?
Yeah, so I guess that kind of that started me off playing the drums, and I was always banging on the. I'd turn over a waste paper bin and bang on the bottom with pegs and stuff, and eventually, I was obviously I wanted to play music. I was really switched on to music. Really loved music. Started playing the drums when I was about 13, 14, and just played in bands because drummers are always in demand. So I was lucky that I would always get in a band because everyone wants to be the front man, right? There's not many drummers about.
That's what they said when I started playing bass guitar, but it's been tough finding a lot of collaborations. But up until recently, only took me 20 years. But yeah.
So yeah, you and I are in harmony. We're a rhythm section, right? Drummers and bass.
Exactly. Hey, maybe we could do something,
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of how I started off, and then like Dave Grohl, I kind of moved from the back to the front, rightly or wrongly, and along the way, I guess it was always been a hobby, a serious hobby. I was in playing in bands, and then I started around 10, 12 years ago. I started playing more. I've been writing songs, playing guitar. I started busking, and then started making money out of music, and started all kinds of opportunities started opening up for me as a professional musician. And now I find myself. I'm here. We moved. My partner and I moved to Oslo from the UK. My partner's American. We met in England. And since I've been here, I've been doing a lot of touring around Norway, playing as they call them troubadours over here, rather romantically. But along that way, I've done all kinds of things in the music business, Mark. I've been a radio DJ, which was focused entirely. The show was focused entirely on unsigned music. This was in the year 2000 when unsigned music was largely pretty. The production was terrible because the tools for production was still out of a lot of people's reach. Right, we didn't have all the stuff that we have now, where you can, GarageBand, you can make sort of industry standard things very cheaply. Then it would still cost a lot of money. So people were great artists, but they struggled to get the product out there. So we championed that very strongly back then, even then. And I've worked in education around music. I've worked coaching and consulting, which I'm doing now. And also there's publishing things opening up. I'm starting a music business directory here in Oslo to sort of consolidate the music industry for immigrants like myself. So everything I've done has always been in and around music, as a musician, a professional musician, and in other roles in the music industry.
So what's the implication of a troubadour? What does that mean in Norway?
Well,
I think of a troubadour as this old American term of, wandering bards, essentially.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what it means nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, they've adopted the word, but yeah, essentially here it just means that I'm playing. Tend to play a lot of bars and restaurants, and I've played some corporate events and things like that. So it's basically I'm playing other people's music. It tends to be. I do throw some of my own stuff in there, but generally, yeah. So it's like a working musician in that way.
And what's your setup? Are you're on drums or guitar? Or?
It's just me and a stomp box and a guitar. So yeah, I've got just an analog stomp box and a guitar, and yeah, a lot of my reimaginings of songs are very rhythm based. So I like to get people dancing. I like to do a lot of that kind of Irish jig kind of stuff and the sea shanties and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's my jam.
Cool. Let's go into the business side a bit. What does it mean today to be a professional musician, and what are some of the primary challenges of professional musicians?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question, Mark, because there's so many different ways that musicians can access, can make money or make a living or be a professional musician. So we've just mentioned one. So playing bars and clubs and things like that. Nature. There's also people teach. Find themselves teaching music, and then there's if you're just doing pure artistry, you're selling your own stuff. Obviously there's where you guys come in. Web3 and everything's blown that wide open, because it's giving the marketing channels and the distribution channels are wide open now, so you can go direct to fan, and so there's that route as well. So I mean, my kind of stuff is generally all around live. So you start with live, and then you can use technology to improve and to distribute your live stuff, right? So that would be where I sort of tend to lean. But yeah, I guess there's all kinds of ways. I mean, and even if you're not a musician necessarily, there's lots of different ways in the music industry that are opening up to be in the music industry and make a living or work in that regard. So a lot of musicians I know tend to do several things, right? They're not just a musician, and if they are, then they tend to have different projects on the go of a different nature. But a lot of musicians tend to have a different kind of, I've got like a different, like a kind of a skill stack of things going on that they kind of do at any one time, which is the nature of a musician, right, and creativity is, I believe that you do have to be very resilient as a person to really make it in the music industry today, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. To be a professional musician, it sounds like, is not just one thing. It's not just you play gigs or you sell recordings or you mix and master on the side, or like it could be a variety of activities that you patch together to be work professionally in the music space today. I think that's really important to keep in mind. And it also feels like a lot of musicians, a lot of what's required to be a professional musician actually is a real cost center, right? Like your gear, hiring studios, hiring professionals, whether they're marketing or audio professionals or what happens. There's a lot of costs implied with being a professional musician. But maybe I'm diverting. But I wonder what your thoughts are on that and how to balance the cost of being a musician with actually generating revenue from that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it depends on what instrument you're playing. Well, let's just say you're me. You got a guitar and a stomp box, and that's it. So, it can be quite minimal costs, really. But it also depends on the nature of your instrument. If you're if you play in an orchestra and you play a harp or a timpani, timpani drum or whatever it is, obviously, then there's different costs involved. If you're a purely electronic producer, then there's going to be a whole lot of more costs there, because obviously you're always adding and upgrading bits of equipment as and when. So it's like anything. There's an investment to it all, right? Financially, and with
I
your
always wondered
time
how
more than
double
anything,
bass players would. I always wondered how
because
double bass
to get to a
players carry
certain
their.
level where you are.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the
Yeah,
different costs.
I
I
see
mean,
them now and again around here. There's huge cases on wheels. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So
you could
it's
practically sleep in one of
does
those
that
things,
mean I
as
saw
an
somewhere?
Airbnb.
Does that mean I saw it? I should. Did you hear it? So there's that thing about musician is someone who plays a. I'm going to butcher this terribly, but it's basically like you got a £10,000 guitar and going off to play a $50 gig. Right? It's like that. It can be a lot of time.
Yeah,
And
that's what it feels like a
financial.
lot. It feels like that, and it's this constant challenge, because as a musician, you need certain gear, not for the heck of it, because you're trying to achieve a certain sound. So you need that piece of gear if that's the kind of sound you want to create. Well, that means, whether it's gear or studio or investments into your own training or space or whatever it happens to be, a lot of costs involved. A lot of costs if you want to make if you want to make the right stuff. And what we're trying to do with our company is to really bring back the revenue to the recorded music via Web3. And I'm trying to get your perspective on that as well, which is amazing. We're going to dive into one topic, and I want to know your perspective on that, is AI. So there's a lot of new tech that could disrupt the lives of musicians. We'll start with AI. What are your views on AI from the musician's perspective? Is it a net positive or a net negative?
I just think AI is incredible. It's really it's like any kind of new tool, right? It's a tool. AI is a tool. The internet's a tool. All these things are tools, and they're only as good, really, as what you put into it. Of course, AI trains itself and will be able to create its own things, and does. However, when you're creating music, then it is about you still inputting what you want it to come out of. So there's a certain amount of it's a tool. So what do I think about it? I think it's of course it's going to disrupt, and it will, and there's always going to be things that disrupt the music industry, and all industries. AI will disrupt every industry. I think it's great. I've played around with Suno and things like that, and it's incredible that you can just pump out songs in like 20 seconds, and you can use those as inspiration. You can use those. You can just make beats, right? And you can rap over the top, and you can do all kinds of things with it. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it will still, in one way, it's. We're still in the early days of it, right? We're still in the wild west of it. We haven't even. We don't even know the full impact it's going to have on, because it's so new. But I think with everything, there's naturally like a like a hockey stick kind of curve, and they go, and then it kind of plateaus, and then it'll come down. Everything goes like that. So I don't think AI is going to be any different. But it's a fascinating tool to use, and I think it can be used for good. I really do think that, and whether it's for like videos, or for creating beats, or for making music, and just sort of getting ideas. But I think the interesting thing, what will happen, what I am seeing happen, is if we go back to the live thing again. I guess the first thing my thought was like, oh shit, that's the end of live music forever. Everyone's just going to go and watch these kind of these Web3 concerts, and with the headphones and glasses on, and live music's going to go. But I don't think that's the case. I think there's going to be a bigger push on the live scene. People are going to crave more live music, more authenticity, because as AI gets more sophisticated, and you can deep fake I don't know, a Drake concert. You could program your song and have Drake doing it, and all this kind of stuff. Pretty soon, you're not going to be able to know what's real and what isn't, and so people are only going to believe what's in front of them, and so they're going to crave live music to go, well, this is
There
authentic.
does seem to be a push, if not a trend, for that live IRL experience different ways of meeting people, different ways of going to events.
Yeah.
I think there is a real human craving, and post COVID, that was just more exacerbated. So I think there's a lot to that. I don't think everyone's ready to jump into the matrix quite
Mm,
yet,
mm,
willfully.
mm,
And as you say, we may not know what's real and what's not. It's happened already. I've watched a video, took me a few seconds or up to a minute to be like, that's, yeah, okay, I could get that was AI generated, that particular video. But a few months ago, I could tell that right away, or after a few seconds. So it's just incrementally blurring the lines between what is AI generated and what was human generated. And that's kind of the promise of live performance in some ways. It's just going to be a whole heck of a lot more difficult to fake, Spence with his stomp box, doing a gig at a bar. It's just, you can't, and there's not even really an economic incentive to fake that. That's the thing.
exactly.
If you
Yeah.
could make a robot or a hologram or something, the amount of infrastructure required to fake a live performance only makes sense if you're doing it at like the Las Vegas Eye or something, like or Sphere rather, some major venue or something where like, okay, you could invest that. But the smaller niche performances, and I keep coming back to this word niche because I think it's really gonna affect the recorded music too, because you'll be at a gig, you'll be doing your bar stuff, be doing your original music, and then you'll be able to convert some of those folks to buying your limited edition digital, your vinyl, whatever you have available, just like you used to sell CDs.
Mm,
And that will be your niche. Might only be a few hundred, few thousand people, but when they're each buying something that's of significant value in a recurring fashion, you're talking about a very significant revenue stream for the average musician. And that
yeah.
to me is exciting. That's a lot more exciting, in fact, than saying that some musician got a number one hit or a top 10 hit, like, and they made a bunch of money. Okay, they all sound the same anyway. Like, great. Doesn't really mean anything for me. I think what's really interesting is the millions of musicians out there and the prospect of reinvigorating the space such that they can actually make some kind of living. I mean, it's easy to say make a living off of it, but honestly, if it was just a revenue stream to support their lives, who wouldn't want that? An extra revenue stream to say, hey, all this stuff that I'm investing in with my gear and my studios and my training and all that, finally I'm seeing some ROI on that. I mean, that seems like a very good outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, and this is now, today it's a lot easier to do that, to create that revenue stream, using all the tools that are available, no cost or low cost. And like you say, I think a lot of musicians who've been in it a while understand that it's, that back in the day you'd have the dream of like making it and having the big mansion and all that kind of stuff, but realistically now it's like, okay, well, as long as I'm making some money out of it, and as you said, again, some return on investment, then doesn't have to be like the be all and end all. It doesn't have to be the main source of income. It can definitely be a very healthy income stream, which can grow, depending on how much I put into it. And just going back to your point about the AI thing, I think it reminds me a bit of what's possible. What is happening is, I think they reconstructed ABBA, right? They brought ABBA back and they created this whole kind of AI experience around that. I haven't seen it, but I've been told it's very convincing, right? So I think that's the way. I think it could be really powerful in that kind of way of like bringing back things like the Beatles, or bringing back Elvis, or bringing back Sinatra, and all these kind of things, and reconstructing that as a whole like immersive experience that you go into a theatre or a dome and just pay for it to have that kind of thing. But then you've still got the real musicians are still going to be attractive for that, but then have these massive kind of experiences where you can. It's almost like going to like when 3D came to the cinemas, right? It's a bit of a gimmick, and people go and now and again will watch a 3D film, but it hasn't taken over cinema. It hasn't revolutionized. It's like not every film you watch is 3D glasses. I think that's how it will be with AI. You'll use it as a kind of a now and again have this really amazing experience, but generally, it will be music will still carry on the way it is, and people will still want to be in a sweaty room and have the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because you're in the moment and you're watching a real band go for it. I don't think any kind of synthesis can compete with that really, and I think that's what
Well,
people
music
want.
has also been a social endeavor for basically as long as we know. So, I mean, the audience. It's an opportunity for the audience to meet each other. I'm
Yeah,
sure you've been looking out from the stage of some of your gigs, and you see people meeting each other and connecting with each other and dancing, and like you're providing part of that space.
yeah,
You know, and that's why it's so essential that the live space starts to thrive again. I think it is coming back because just people are eager for that. Um, what have you heard about blockchain and NFTs for music? And do you think it has strong potential
yeah,
or a
absolutely. I
potential?
mean, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys I know who are in that space. Shout out to Christian, who is created Spoz Club, Spoz.club, I
Hmm.
think it's called, and
Yes, I've come across that.
yeah, he's doing great things out there. And Carl, I forgot his name now. Sorry, Carl, but he's also doing some great stuff out there. So I think there's a great potential there, and I think the great thing about it is that that there is a lot of royalties that go astray, right? So with music,
Hmm.
and there's some statistic, I don't know what it is, I'm not going to make it up now, but I know there's a lot of royalties that don't get claimed by musicians. And then we've already talked about, how can we maximize that income stream, even if it's a small income stream, how can you maximize the amount of money that you're entitled to and get, because it might be more than you think. And so with blockchain, that kind of eradicates all that. It's very transparent. And I think that's a good thing on that level, on that kind of administration kind of level. It's great. There's a lot of yeah, he's going to clear up a lot. I think he's going to simplify a lot of the process there. He's going to make it a lot easier to see who wrote what and when. All these kind of legal disputes. He's going to sort of clean all that kind of stuff up as well. On the creative side of it, I think, yeah, I'd see again. It's a tool, right? It's only as good as people use it for, and I'm sure, things like having your own music and NFTs and things like that go together. I think that can only be a good thing, that you're increasing the amount of opportunities to get income. You're creating different streams that people can to support you with, and I think the
Mm.
more of those that are out there, whether you use them all and to the maximum efficiency, I don't know. It's the same with blockchain. It's something that needs to be learnt and practiced and understood, and I think there's a lot of people, including myself, that probably doesn't really understand all of it, how it works, but knows the theory of it and the principle of it. But
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
a very common thing that a lot of musicians have really only cursorily heard of it. Um, in fact, pretty much everybody has only a cursory understanding of it. Um, and it's like, how deep in the rabbit hole do you want to get? But the point is, what are the benefits of it? What are the features of it? What can it enable? And ultimately, it shouldn't be. It should be talked about, and education is crucial, but it's really in the experience. It's really in the experience. That's when it will click with musicians. When it's like, oh, I was able to collaborate and we did the split on the blockchain, and then we made an NFT out of it, and then this many people bought it and were token gated into the project, and we made a significant amount of money from that just by putting our single out like that, by just letting our socials know. And then once they see this process of like, okay, this is actually a serious potential here, that's the experience of it. Um, or any other way that blockchain will function. Once the experience is ingratiated, it will speak for itself. Just like we don't have to talk about HTML as being the backbone of the internet or anything like that in order to enjoy the internet. It's just there, and it's enabling the experience.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Let's dive deeper into one of the main growth spaces being talked about, and that's activating fans, or super fans as they're sometimes called. Um, how do you find and engage with your top supporters?
Yeah, I guess. Well, for me, I play live, right? So that's my uh, the main point of contact with me. So you'll find
Mhm,
me playing
mhm,
live, and
mhm,
from there, obviously, if people, the good thing about that is that I'll talk about a model which I kind of use, and you can use it for gigs and stuff, but it works really well for busking. And there's people who are really smashing this model, which is
mhm.
Ren, who you knew he had a #1 album. He did that track High Ren, that kind of. I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube. He kind of blew up. Phenomenal performance. He's a phenomenal talent. However, he started off, and he still does. He started off busking in Brighton, right? So he's playing on the streets, and he's developing a fan base because he's good, right? Let's just
Mm.
get that bit in there as well. We're talking about, platforms and all this kind of stuff. None of that matters if the product isn't any good, right? If you're not good at what you do, if you haven't got something that people want to listen to, then it's not going to work. It doesn't matter Web3, Web1, NFT. None of that matters, right? It's you got to have the quality product, right? So he's got that. So he and a few other people. There's Ali Sherlock, who she sings mainly covers. Again, very good, great voice. There's a guy called Laurie Wright, who again started off as a busker, and then started a band busking, and then has gone on to like sell out 500 capacity rooms in London and stuff. So this model works. So you're busking and you're playing live, so you're engaging people live in the moment. And the good thing about that is you don't have to find an audience. You plonk yourself in the middle of an audience, right? You go where people are, right? And you put yourself where people are. And then because no one's asked you to be there, when somebody comes up and shows you some appreciation, shows you a tip, or scans your QR code, or engages with you in some way, they're doing that because you've attracted them. They're not doing it passively; they're doing it very actively, right? So you're putting yourself in front of an existing stream of people, and you're getting people putting their hands up and saying, "Hey, I like what you're doing, like what you're doing." So you've got to capture that, like you do anything else: emails, QR codes, Facebook, whatever it is, you capture them. And then you have them in your funnel, right? So you will send them emails, you'll send them share, you'll get them on your socials, and then those people are with you. They're your supporters, and it's very simple. You
Mhm.
just develop that relationship with them. You treat them, you tier them down, so the people who give you more support, you reward them in a different way than you would somebody who just likes your occasional videos, right? So it's that kind of segmenting your audience to reward and nurture super fans, people who will eventually then start to support you financially and come out to your shows and buy your merch. And if you want to crowdfund an album, they're the first people who you want to
Yeah, yeah,
who get involved as donors. So I think it's a very simple thing. I think that would be my model. That's the model that I use, and that's the model that I see other people using. And then that you can use all the tools around that we've just talked about. So you can use live stream, you can use the blockchain, you can use Web3, you can use AI around it if you want to. But ultimately, it's you live, and that's ultimately what people want to see. Are
mhm.
you real? Can you do it live? And then they're much more on board. If you listen to someone on Spotify, for me anyway, everyone's different. If I listen to someone on Spotify, if somebody tells me about a band and they send me a link and I'll listen to it, I go, yeah, this is good. But then I'm thinking, but how good are they really? Are they
Yeah,
good live? In
yeah.
person, or is it all just smoke and mirrors? That's what I'm thinking. So when people see you live first, then that question is answered, and they're much more likely to. That fan is much more likely. He's already further down the funnel because they've seen you. They've seen the
So
goodness.
let's make this really practical. Let's say you do a great gig.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that audience turns into your fans, or you find your super fans from that audience?
Yeah. So what I'd normally do is I'd have a sign up. I'd have a simple sign, and people can hit that up. And have my socials on it, and I will, verbally talk about it. And if you want to, some bars, some places will let you, even though they're paying you, some will let you tip. And here in Oslo, it's a great
Mm,
little tool. It's called Vips, and so people can tip you like digitally on a like a PayPal kind of thing, but it's instant.
Right.
It's also got a messenger service, so they'll say, "Hey, tusen tack, great show, whatever," and they'll send you some money. And then they've opened up a dialogue, so of course, naturally, I'm going to reciprocate. Right? I'm going, "Oh, thanks for the thing. Really appreciate you, tipping me. By the way, I'm playing this gig here, and blah blah blah." And so
Right.
they're already a fan, a paying fan. They've tipped you, and they've said they really enjoyed it. So you're engaged, you're off and away. So that's how it works. And of course, the goal for me isn't to get everyone doing that, because not everyone's going to do that. Not everyone's going to like it. It'll be into it in that moment, but the ones that are will, and that's great. And if you happen to be back there again, other people will be into it again. People who they bring friends along, and I've had that quite a few times. People go, "Oh, when you play next, I'll bring some more friends along because we enjoyed you last time." So it's that kind of thing. It's very simple. You do a good job and you get asked back, and you start to attract people who are into what you're doing, and just capturing them. The fortune is in the follow up, really, because a lot of people will tip you or interact with you, say that was great, and you go, "Oh, thanks." And there's no follow up, or no, like, "Oh, by the way,
Yeah, I think a lot of musicians fall into that trap where
yeah,
they do a live gig, it goes great, but they do not have actionable steps to convert some of that audience into a mailing list, or
yeah,
and I find it to be a little awkward, actually, because it's like you're performing and then you just stop and say, "Hey, everyone, scan this QR code or go to the merch table and type in your email," or like there's something a little forced about it. And it's also like, how do you get people to actually do it? Like they're all
yeah,
drinking, having fun, whatever. Like, how do you get them to? I saw someone post on LinkedIn recently, and I forget who it was. I should probably remember who that person was, but um, they mentioned a live show they went to, and the I guess every band member or something like that, or maybe some of their friends, went out with pads and papers and got like as many emails as possible, like in this venue, and then they collected all of them and immediately entered them into a database, and then immediately sent out a message to everyone saying that they were giving them a discount for merch. So it was like this
yeah.
really, it was like, it sounds very forward, but it's that kind of thing. Because I mean, look, there's how many hundreds of people packed into a venue. The more you can convert into being people that want to follow you, that's real revenue down the line. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a post that I reposted that. But I
maybe
can't
that's where I
remember.
saw it. You
Yeah,
reposted
yeah,
that.
so
Okay. Right, yeah.
yeah, Sheehan, I think his name is anyway, but props to him anyway. But that's exactly it. Yeah. And obviously that's easier if you're in a band, because you get one person in the band, that's their job, or like, or if you've got a person, you've got a bit of a team, then it's a lot easier. You go, if you're all on board with that and you go, okay, right, there's 5 in the band, we all split up and we all go off and we all sign people up, and you can make it fun, because that's the beauty of a live performance. When you've just finished, there's that kind of golden glow. There's the kind of there's that magic hour, right? Or it's probably more like magic 10 minutes, really. Just after the show, everyone's still buzzing, right? Everyone's still in that emotional state. So that's the time to hit them, because they're still like, so yeah, that was brilliant, and then they're much more
Yeah.
likely to give it. But half an hour later, 45 minutes later, they've forgotten all about it. If you went up to them, then it's awkward, because they're like, "Hey, did you enjoy the go?" "Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, we've moved on now. That was
Yeah.
emotionally
We're
they've
thinking where
gone,
we're
they've
going
left
next.
that."
Yeah.
But
Um,
I think that's the key point. It's timing, because when it's at the right time, then it's not fake and it's not phony and it doesn't feel hokey. It's actually, they want that. They want, "Oh yeah, I want to join. I want to follow you."
they want the follow up.
So you got to
They want
ride
somebody to
that
join.
emotional wave, and again, there's ways of doing it. Sometimes I'll do it like with a picture thing. So people like to video anything, right? The people are videoing. It might not mean that they actually like it. They just like filming things, right? And do nothing with it afterwards. So I'll actually name that and say, okay, I know that people are filming and take pictures. That's great. Hey, I never get to see any of these pictures and films. So if you want to, if you send me the picture to my socials straight after the gig, I'll give a prize to the best picture. little things like that. You just make it gamify it, make it fun.
Right.
And then people have got an incentive to sort of, oh yeah, I'll take a picture because I'm going to film it anyway, and then I'll send it to you. And that's a good way of getting content as well that you can use that isn't you filming yourself. So there's little tricks and tips like that you can do to keep it natural and flowing. You're not sort of forcing it.
I think having fun with it sounds like a good baseline. Like make it fun, make it humorous, even do something that just kind of gets people loosened up, and then that will allow them to sign up, take the pictures, this kind of thing. What are some of the main apps you use to make music, distribute, connect with other musicians, collaborate? Like, are you using lots of different apps right now, whether on your phone or desktop?
Not really. No, I guess I use just I'll use Instagram, I'll use Facebook, WhatsApp, and of course I was talking about Vips earlier because that's people, particularly that's kind of specific to Norway. Really, everyone uses it, so it's very common for people to use that, and it's very easy to use. So I think that's a great tool for my live shows. Yeah.
So the social engagement. Are you using any other apps for like collaborating online, file sharing, distributing, anything like that, or?
Not really. I mean, just the usual stuff, really. I mean, I'll use obviously I'm using LinkedIn, but for like file sharing and things like that. I mean, I've used YouTube in the past, like Dropbox and We Deliver, is it something like that? We Sign, or I can't remember.
We Transfer.
We Transfer. That's the one. Thank you. But
okay.
I haven't used. I haven't plugged into your stuff yet.
Okay, great. We'll get you on board. No problem. Are you happy with the streaming music paradigm?
Am I happy with what?
The streaming music paradigm that we have with Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music.
I'm happy with it. Again, I think it's a tool, right? So it's a distribution tool. What I don't like about it is, if you look at Spotify's mission statement, it is to, I think it's 1,000 or 10,000 or 1 million. I don't know. Maybe it's 1 million. I've got 1 million people who can make a living off the music, right? And yet, time and again, they will pay the smallest amount. They will pay the smallest amount possible to the artist, and so they're kind of going against their own mission statement, because they're not campaigning for more. They're not trying to continually push to give the artist more that on the, So that is something that is abhorrent to me. However, there's always people who can make it work, right? And there are a lot of artists who do make it work and can make it work. And I think it's a tool in the arsenal. I don't think a lot of artists can just purely live off Spotify income. Even legacy artists, it sounds like. So I think it's just another tool. I think it's incredible exposure. But, I think more things that they're bringing in now sounds like they're charging the artist more to get more access, to get more reach, which again is, it's the model that's happened, isn't it? Every digital platform starts off like that. Like Facebook started off completely free, loads of reach. You can, reach anybody, and then gradually they phase it down, and then you've got to start paying if you want to see, So it's the classic sort of drug dealer model, isn't it? Here's a little taste, get you hooked, and then right now you're going to start paying it because you can't go anywhere else. You're hooked on it. So this is the way that it works. So it's business, it's just fine, in that regard. In a business sense, they're out there to make money and pay, get the most in and pay the least out. So that's fine. But when you're using artists and stuff, you're kind of milking them and not really seen to be like wanting to give them more. That's what I'm not seeing that from Spotify. I'm not seeing that, we really want to give you more in some way, but they're not doing that. But
yeah, there's not like a lot of
like
data and all this. Yep.
Yeah, I think in terms of yeah, I mean, it's great for that. It's great for data and stuff like that. I think it's great to know where your fans are, and it's great for all this granular detail that you can get from it. And I guess that's the payoff. In a lot of ways, you can measure your music a lot more. And like I say, people do make it work. And I think it's possible to do that. But I think for most artists,
one tool in the arsenal, but not the be all end all. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts you have on the music industry and the professional lives of musicians that we haven't touched upon, but you feel are important?
Yeah, so I've got this manifesto, right, which is the Delusional Freak manifesto.
Yes,
so,
please explain that. Yes.
Yeah, so delusional freak. Are you a delusional freak? Well, you need to be a delusional freak if you want to be an artist. So I will explain that. I won't go the whole manifesto, but essentially what it is that you have to be delusional to think that your music as a new artist, or even mid-level artist, even out of the millions of tracks that are uploaded every month, that you somehow deserve to be heard in almost that white noise. You have to be delusional. You have to be delusional to think that. You have to be delusional to think that your music's any better than all the established artists out there. You have to be delusional to get up on stage and think that you can entertain people with what you've got. So there's a certain amount of delusion there, which is good. That's a good thing to have that. You need it to have this kind of single-minded focus on your own art, to go, this is, I don't care necessarily. I'm not saying don't pay attention to stats and and streams and likes and follows. I'm not saying don't listen to that. I'm saying put that in its right place, which is further down the line. The first thing you should be focused on is your art and your music and your message and your story. Get all that in line and be really focused on that to the point of being delusional, right? And to not to fit in, not try and fit in to a mold and follow formulas and chase likes and follows, but freak out. Be that freak that you want to be. Do that thing that you're scared of doing because you think everyone's going to ridicule you. You're going to do this thing or whatever it is. Put this track out, put this kind of persona on that you really want to do, but you think if you do it, your friends are going to laugh at you. People are going to ridicule you. And do that, lean into that and go use ridicule as fuel, use rejection as fuel, because you're going to get rejected a lot more than you're going to get accepted. That's just a fact. So get used to the taste of rejection, love the taste of rejection, and use those rejection and ridicule to fuel your creative outputs. And through that, you develop calluses, which build up to resilience, which is what you need to keep going, right? So the whole thing is like a flywheel that fuels itself. So you thrive on rejection, you thrive on ridicule, and your resilience is amped to the point where you're unstoppable. And so success is guaranteed. So you don't really need to focus on the granular details, because that will take care of itself, because you're so creative and you're so unstoppable that all that stuff will just fall into place anyway. So I would say put that first, and let that be your North Star. Let that be your be all and end all, and the rest will kind of take care of itself. And so find that authenticity. And and to most people will say a negative thing. Yeah, you're a delusional freak for thinking that you could make a living or make any kind of impact in music. And you'll say, yeah, you're damn right I am. That's exactly what I am. I'm delusional freak, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be anything else. I don't need to be anything else. I have to have that belief in myself, because then that will attract other people to you. And that's what attracts fans. If you think about, Mark, if you think about the artists that you're into, if you met them, if you would have to say there's something unique and some different about them. They're generally not boring. They're not run-of-the-mill people that you're attracted to. You're attracted to delusional freaks, right? You're attracted to. I mean, let's take it out of music for a second. Elon Musk, delusional freak. If you met him at a bar, you didn't know who he was, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm making reusable rockets and we're going to Mars." You'd think, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" He's a delusional freak,
Right.
but he's doing it, right? He's doing it, and he's got that belief. So you have to have it. And don't. What I'm trying, why that manifesto is, there's so many people who hide that and push that down and want to try and fit in and want to try and follow the trend to, you know, to kind of shortcut the system, find the hack, find the sort of little back thing that's going to get me suddenly, you know, get to, in 30 days I'm going to get all these followers. You know, forget all that stuff. Just focus on your freakiness. Focus on what is the things that you're frightening you to do, and lean into those frightening things. But take all the flack and all the ridicule and rejection as fuel to go faster.
What an inspiring and interesting message. How can folks read the Delusional Freak Manifesto? Is that available online?
They can get in touch. You can send me an email and say, "I want to be a delusional freak," and I'll tell you more about it. But that's the full manifesto. I can send it to you. Yeah.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, so that's anyone can find you there.
Yeah, that's
Spence
my main
Cater.
place. So come find me on LinkedIn. Come join the freaky party.
Yeah, I love it. I when I first saw that comment that you made about delusional freak, it was one of the more entertaining statements I've seen in a very long time related to being a musician. There's something kind of whimsical about it, but also kind of inspiring about it. And I think just keep pushing that manifesto. It's just a really exciting message, and it's something that brings a little bit of lighthearted quality to what it means to be a musician, which is you're going for your creative dreams. And let's just say what it is. You're a delusional freak if you're doing that, you know, but
Yeah,
that's what you have to lean into.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, there's so many everywhere. I mean, there's a guy, Youngblood. Have you seen him? Artist called Youngblood. I mean, he's very much, he very much manifests and it embodies that delusional freak thing. You know, wears a skirt, wears eyeliner. You know, he's kind of artistically all over the place, but he's fucking real. You know, when you watch him, he's real. He speaks real, and he's all about like connection, and he's really speaking to people, you know, and really, and that's why he's got a big fan base, you know, because he really connects with people that way. So I think then you will find your followers. We're talking about super fans and stuff like that. Then like the method, the kind of the platform and stuff is good. It's good to have these things, but a lot of people will start with that and focus all about, oh, how am I going to get these likes and follows and stuff, and how am I going to capture it all? It's like, well, hold on a minute. Whoa, you know, let's get people interested in you first, and then worry about that stuff afterwards. You know, I'm not saying don't forget about it. It's important, but you know, the important bit is you. You're the thing that people are interested in, and so you completely embody your fucking freakiness and you own it. Then people aren't going to tap into it, because people can sense when you're authentic or not, right? People can feel whether you're for real or not. And I think the closer you can get to that kind of that essence of you, then the rest will fall into place. So I believe that.
Well, Spence, it's been a fascinating conversation, covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights on this. Spence Cater of Promo, thanks so much for joining us today.
Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we got off to a false start, but I think it was worth the wait.
Absolutely. Glad we could do it.
Appreciate it, man.